Ya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi, everybody. I hope all of you always be fine. I'm Titi Swidyani, and in this occasion, I wanna share to you about second language acquisition. But before that, we have to know about what is second language acquisition. So, the language, the second language acquisition is learning the second language after the first language that have been mastered. Means that you have your first language and wanna add another language. So that's called second language acquisition. For make it clear, I wanna give you an example how did the SLA occur. I took two example from the children acquirer and the adult acquirer. For the first is children acquirer. For example, is a child from Indonesia is brought to England. He speaks Indonesia as a first language, but because of having, I mean that because of having school there, and he must speak English for communicating with others. So because of Indonesia is the first language, and wanna add another language for learning. And the second is adult acquirer. Example is a Russian live at Russia for a long time and then decide to immigrate with his family to Canada for working. He must know English when communicate with native or with a friend in their job. So we can adopt and we can learn language, formal and informal. So when we talk about informal, we'll learn about language acquisition because that's an aware process. Means that children or adults adopt the ability to speak English based on the conversation around. For the example, a learner studying English speaking country, they acquire the language from the part-time job because they can adopt or get the language from the environmental when they speak with his friend naturally or unaware process. And then when we talk about language learning, we can call it that it is aware process because children or adults adopt the ability to speak English based on the role. For the example, a learner studying English language from the class. They develop the language from the material that given by the teacher so that the the adult get what is it the adult get the learning the language in the classroom because the teacher give the material, the conversation, the pronunciation, and then the grammar in the classroom. So language learning is aware process because in we have in an intention to learn in the classroom. When we learn about second language acquisition, we also find some problems. And this one, some problems. I will show you about the problems of language learning. I took an example from the problems based on the children. The first is children learn language by imitating those around them, but children have an innate language ability. It means because the children have innate language, so they can imitate they can imitate what the parents or the people say around them. The second is children may say that an adult do not cause off from children's tendency. because of the children have a tendency, they have their own language that the adult or the parents do know about what they are saying. And the third, they do not imitate adult language well when asked to do. For the example, when the children say, I bite a doll, but the parents say, not bite, but bout. I bout a doll. And then the children have to imitate, I bite a doll. They always make a vowel. So, uh, so they cannot imitate well. And the problem solving is about if the children growth or the age is growth, also their language growth. Okay, now about the theory of SLA. I have the five hypotheses. For the first is acquisition learning. Acquisition learning means that the people acquire English as the second language unconsciously and consciously, like I explained before. And the second is monitor, means that the acquirer have to know about the grammar, vocabulary, then time for practicing with native by correcting when they make a fault. Means that um, everybody have their own way to correct to monitor their language. The third is about natural order. Um, it means that the acquirer get the language naturally based on the rule or about based on the rule and the environmental. Means that um, I'm Indonesian. I can speak Indonesia well, but when the Tajik people go to Indonesia and want to learn about English, I mean about Indonesia, so it will be more difficult than me because I use Indonesia is as the first language. So I will pronounce well and then have a lot of vocabulary than the people who learn about the second language. And then the fourth is about the input. So um, the acquirer receive how the acquirer receive the language. For example, usually they receive the language well when it's interesting material in the classroom or it's good conversation with his friend. He can get, oh, okay, I know that slang word, or I can know about the language in the classroom because that material is interesting. So it means that we have intention, we have intention to learn English because the material that we deserve is good. And then the affective filter means the impact of acquirer after acquiring of language. It's about environmental. Environmental is very crucial affect because if you have a good environment, they support you to learn about the second language. So the result is good. It depends on your environment. So that's all my explanation. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.